United States President Donald Trump has changed his story on why he fired Michael Flynn as his national security advisor, now suggesting he knew at the time that Mr. Flynn had lied to the FBI as well as Vice President Mike Pence about his contacts with Russians during the presidential transition. It is a backflip from his initial explanation that Mr. Flynn had to go because he had not been straight with Mr. Pence about those contacts. Mr. Flynn yesterday admitted in a Washington court that he lied to FBI investigators about his discussions last December with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Lying to the FBI is a crime, and one that Mr. Flynn acknowledged in pleading guilty and agreeing to cooperate with the special counsel's Russia investigation. It is unclear now why Mr. Trump would cite lying to the FBI as a reason for firing Mr. Flynn. Doing so suggests the president knew at the time that Mr. Flynn had done something that is against the law, and therefore the investigation could not be as frivolous as he has been portraying. It is also unclear how he would know that, if information about Russian contacts had not reached him, as he has been implying in his own defense. A former Obama administration Justice Department official, Matthew Miller, said Mr. Trump's tweeted response may have admitted to obstruction of justice. Mr. Flynn left the White House in February, only acknowledging that he had given an incomplete account to Mr. Pence of his conversations with Mr. Kislyak. What has been shown is no collusion, Mr. Trump told reporters as he departed the White House for a trip to New York. There's been absolutely no collusion, so we're very happy. After Mr. Trump forced Mr. Flynn out, he asked FBI Director James Comey to end the Bureau's probe in the matter, according to Mr. Comey's account. Mr. Comey refused, and Mr. Trump fired him too. The president tweeted in March that Mike Flynn should ask for immunity, adding the Russia investigation was a witch hunt, excuse for big election loss, by media and Dems, of historic proportion. Mr. Trump has been repeatedly dismissive of Mr. Comey and of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's continuing investigation, and was often generous in his appraisal of Mr. Flynn, except to say his advisor could not stay on the job after misleading his vice president. At the time, Mr. Pence said Mr. Trump was justified in firing Mr. Flynn because Mr. Flynn had lied to him. Neither Mr. Trump nor Mr. Pence indicated concern then that the FBI had not been told the true story. Mr. Pence, who served as head of Mr. Trump's transition, has not publicly commented on Mr. Flynn's plea. White House officials did not respond to questions about Mr. Trump's altered explanation as to why he fired Mr. Flynn. In what appeared to be moves undermining the policies of outgoing President Barack Obama, Mr. Flynn and Mr. Kislyak discussed U.S. sanctions on Russia, and Mr. Flynn asked Mr. Kislyak to help delay a United Nations vote seen as damaging to Israel, according to prosecutors. Mr. Flynn was also told by a very senior member of Mr. Trump's transition team to contact Russia and other foreign governments to try to influence them ahead of the vote, the prosecutors said. Sources told Reuters the very senior transition official was Jared Kushner, Mr. Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor.